So, welcome to this week's Optimum Health Clinic Facebook Live. And this week, the title of the video is Don't Forget the Big Stuff. There's actually quite a famous book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. That was part of my inspiration for the title. And really what I mean by this is appropriately, a lot of energy and focus on the recovery path goes into things like the day-to-day activities that one's doing. So remembering to take supplements, working on calming your nervous system, making sure you're getting deep rest, looking at diets, looking at self-development. There's lots of ingredients and pieces that make up the kind of facets that are supporting the recovery journey. And that's all great, and that's all important, and that's all stuff that obviously you should be continuing to do. But the thing that made me think about this video is what sometimes happens is we are putting a lot of our effort and energy into making sure that those kind of day-to-day kind of building blocks and ingredients are being done and are happening. But sometimes there are more fundamental, bigger things in our life which are just not in balance, that just are, so an example might be that we have multiple chemical sensitivities, or we have issues with toxic mold. We are in an environment where day after day, our system is being exposed to things that are causing major problems on our recovery path. Or we're in a toxic relationship. We're in a kind of abusive relationship, or a relationship which is clearly not healthy and helpful for us. And that means that day to day, our nervous system is constantly being kind of stimulated, and we can't get into a healing state because of the relationship we're in. Or we are hanging on to trying to continue working when that's not the right thing for us, that perhaps we need to take a sabbatical or a period of time for our body to get proper deep rest. And that we're kind of using all of the tools and all of the techniques to try to kind of continue hanging in there and continue doing what it is that we're doing. The problem is that when we forget the big stuff, when some of these kind of key kind of parts of our life are out of balance, then it's almost like whatever we do, it's a bit like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's like we're in a situation where we're constantly stressing our system, and then we're trying to use all these tools to kind of calm and relax and settle our system. But the bigger stress and the bigger impact that's there is just a kind of a massive force in the wrong direction. Now, of course, changing the big stuff is a big deal, right? It's like leaving a relationship that we've been in for many years is a big thing to do. It's a big life decision. Giving up work, even if it's temporarily, might have significant implications financially. Moving house or moving location where we live can be really challenging. So it's not that I'm kind of wanting to oversimplify this and say, don't forget the big stuff, deal with the big stuff. And I recognize that some of these decisions can have lots of implications and consequences. And sometimes it's like you deal with one thing, but then it creates another 5 problems as a result of that. And so sometimes we have to build up our capacity to get to a certain point that then we're able to deal with that piece. So often the sequence and the stages at which we approach and tackle these things is also important. So my point is not that you should just, if you can identify something that's addressing, just immediately think you have to handle it overnight. But again, what we don't want to do is underestimate the importance of these pieces. And sometimes it's hardest to see the things that are right in front of us. It's almost like we're so used to being around certain people or in certain environments or having the identity of our kind of work role, whatever it may be, that it's hard to see the impact of that because we're so normalized to it. It's like, it reminds me of the analogy, which is obviously an experiment I don't recommend people do, but where they take a frog and put it in a glass of boiling water and it jumps out. Put it in a glass of cold water and gradually heat it up, and it stays in there and it gets fried and gets cooked because it doesn't notice the gradual change because it just normalizes to it step by step. Same can be true in life, but we get used to certain factors that are actually having a significant impact on us, on our nervous system and our recovery process. but we're so normalized to it, it's hard for us to recognize and to see the impact. So if there are, sorry, we have a puppy outside the door, which is being noisy, so I apologize. I have one very sweet puppy next to me, another one outside, less so. Not less sweet, but just a little bit more demanding and not allowed to be in here when I'm trying to record because it's likely to keep jumping on me. When it comes to making these kind of bigger life changes, how to approach those in a way which is helpful. So what we don't want to do is just not see something and block it out and just kind of not address it and not deal with it. But the other side of that parameter, the other side of that equation is getting caught in analysis paralysis, where we're thinking about something so much of the time that the actual stressing about it is almost doing more damage than the situation. And it's making us increasingly less empowered and capable of dealing with the situation that we need to deal with. And so it's kind of finding that kind of, I think I did a vlog called something like the boring middle ground, but it's kind of finding that kind of middle road where you're not ignoring something, but you're not consumed by something. You're aware of something, you are being patient, you're supporting yourself, you're using tools and techniques. You are getting good advice, talking to a practitioner or talking to friends and family. And it's realizing that major life decisions have major impacts. And sometimes we can make a decision that has 3 to 5 years of impacts on our life. And I don't say that to feel the kind of the stressing and the anxiety and the kind of overwhelm and that sort of thing. But it's taking the time to really think through the things that we commit ourselves to. And it's a little bit like the analogy I heard many years ago. It's like you've got two lines which are parallel. And then you move one line a few degrees. And it looks like nothing at first. It looks like nothing's really changed. But over time, that other line gets further and further and further away because that subtle change has more and more impact. So, for example, we may make some small changes initially. It may not be we have to deal with this massive thing and make a dramatic life change. We might make some small changes that start us down a different track and start to move us in the right direction and in a better direction. So there's obviously a lot more I can say about this topic, but it's also one of those ones that the lot more is often dependent upon the specifics of the circumstances and situations that people aren't dealing with. But really what I'm saying is don't negate the importance of addressing the bigger factors by the fact that you're doing the kind of the stuff day to day. And don't use that stuff just to offset the impact of bigger things that need addressing. If there are bigger things that do need addressing, get support. By definition of them being big, they're probably not the sort of things that you should feel you have to handle on your own. Don't get caught in analysis paralysis. And at the same time, don't also kind of ignore what's going on. And be gentle and patient and loving of yourself in the process as well. I think that's it. Just the other thing I'll say is there's a post, I think, on our community, Optimum Health community page. I'm going to do one or possibly a series of AMAs or Ask Me Anythings where people can post questions and I'll just take the questions that people have posted where they seem like suitable questions to address. So feel free, if there are things that you'd like me to cover in these vlogs that I haven't covered, or there are things that you'd like some kind of clarification on, feel free to comment on that, and then I'll use that as a source to do, as I say, probably a series of sessions in the future. And I've got another dog barking, so I better go. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye for now.